broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey everybody, Keetin Marchi here, doing another special edition of Spotlight On with actor David Lipper, who, if you guys have not seen the history show Sons of Liberty, or the miniseries Sons of Liberty, please, please, please watch it. It is so freaking good. And you play Amos. And is it Amos Lincoln that you play?
No.
Okay.
His name is simply Amos the merchant.
Okay, awesome.
So back in those days, the merchants were like the street guys. They were the go-to guys to get you guns, to get you booze, maybe women. And when they formed this gang, so Sam Adams, Paul Revere, John Hancock started this gang, along with Dr. Warren. And the merchants were a key part, and they didn't want to have like 100 merchants, so they created a character, Amos, who represented all these merchants.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we'll get more into kind of Sons of Liberty a little bit, but you have been in the industry for so long. I know you're originally from Canada, but I mean, your first show first big show I'd say was Time of Your Life.
Boy, that's going back. So
We're going way back today.
That was a Canadian teen soap opera, so think like 90210. As like a daily soap opera on at 4 o'clock every day. We shot 150 episodes. Oh my God. And somehow I still graduated from college on time. I somehow overloaded and went back to school and still got my degree.
That's great. So what initially kind of got you into acting? What was the bug that bit you?
I think my parents just wanted me out of the house, because I was the guy who was running around performing and singing and doing all that stuff, and I started in musical theater. And at like 8, they brought me to a church, even though I'm Jewish. They brought me to a church choir group that was the entire church choir and me doing the gondoliers. And how I ended up there, I still don't know. And then I ended up by 9, I was doing the leads in theater productions and community theaters, and getting really good reviews, and I just knew ever since then that this was what I do best. And
so how did you then move to TV and get into this soap opera, where you played the villain?
Yeah,
actually.
In Time of Your Life, I was the villain. It's so funny. I haven't talked about this show in years.
Oh, this is great.
So that was just an audition, like anything else. It was, I had just done my freshman year of college, and I went home for the summer vacation, and I had an agent in Montreal, where I'm from, and she said, "Hey, I've got this audition for you. It's for a new soap called Time of Your Life." And I said, "Great." And they booked me right away.
That's amazing.
I took off the next year of school and then, went back to college.
Did you enjoy playing the villain on that show?
Oh, I love playing the villain. There's so many good villainous roles that I've gotten to play, like the Black Widower. I played the title role against Kelly McGillis, who a lot of people may remember from Top Gun. And that way, he was diabolical. It's a true story. The crazy thing is, the crazier the story, the truer the story.
That's creepy.
So this is a true story about a guy also named Amos, who killed 3 of his wives. Yeah, for the insurance money.
Now, when you were a kid and doing these musical theater stuff, did you ever get the villain part too?
No, in the musicals, I was always the hero.
Good.
Yeah, like I did a production of Into the Woods as my final graduation from Emerson, and we actually did an amazing production. So many talented people in that, and I played Rapunzel's prince.
So you sang Agony?
I sang Agony.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
What did you think of the movie production that just came out?
It's tough for me because I know the show so well.
Yeah.
Having done it, I felt like they gave up a lot by making Jack and Little Red so young, because especially with Johnny Depp as the wolf, like you want there to be all this sexual tension between Little Red Riding Hood and the wolf, because that's what's really happening, is he really wants to get in there with her. And this was just kind of pure, like he was just going to eat her.
Yeah.
And so, because she was too young, so if they could have made her a little older, like a teenager or something, or a late teenager, that could have played.
Yeah.
And not been as creepy, I guess, for them to cut out. So that was one of the problems. They also cut out the duet between the father and the baker, which is one of my favorite songs. So, you know, it was hard for me knowing what's missing.
Yeah.
And saying it wasn't quite the same for me.
That's what I heard a lot of critiques like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not very familiar with Into the Woods, but I'm such a fan of musical theater and Sondheim, and the movie, it just I don't know, it just didn't do it for me. So I'm like, I have to see a good theater production.
Although
Emerson,
Meryl Streep was great, you know, I mean,
Meryl
so
Streep
there
is
was a
put on
lot of good
screen.
stuff in there. Yeah.
Emily Blunt was amazing too. It was visually stunning.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, coming from a musical theater company at Emerson, which I know they have a great theater program there.
Amazing.
I'm sure you guys is that on tape anywhere?
It is
you know?
somewhere. Yeah, it's out there somewhere. It's so funny because somebody was posting about it on Facebook saying, I have a copy. I'm like, oh God, I'd like to see that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. My favorite part of the movie was the Agony song, so it's really cool.
I may have a picture that somebody sent me on Facebook of it. I'll send it to you later.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We'll make sure to tweet it out, you guys, because did you get to wear the leather pants and everything?
I don't think it was leather. It was more like uniform princely than hip princely, I would say.
So you did major in musical theater. Did you have like Broadway dreams?
I did.
You did?
Yep. Yeah, in fact, I was talking about doing the Fantastics right after college, and then I had an opportunity to test for a pilot in LA for a show called Step by Step with Suzanne Summers, if anyone remembers that show.
Suzanne Summers.
And I went right to the end on that. It came down to me and a guy named Sasha Mitchell. But that was my first audition in LA. I had just got off, the plane from Canada.
That's amazing. I mean, yeah, why go to New York when like that's the first thing that's kind of put on your doorstep?
And that's like, to answer that question, how did I end up in TV? That's really how it happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I made a concerted effort to say, I'm going to do TV or film or theater. It's just I love to do what I do, whether it's musical theater or whether it's TV or whether it's film. I love them all. And so whatever worked, and whichever opportunity presented itself, that's what I took.
And so I don't know how quickly it was after you came to LA, but I don't know if you guys know, his hair looked very different when he was in this show, but you played Viper, who is DJ Tanner's boyfriend, in Full House, and I know they're gonna put up a picture right now to show you the hair, but it's pretty epic. It's that's like a mullet, right?
That's actually a mullet would
Jerry
be
curl?
I think shorter on the sides. That's just called Jew curl. Just comes with being a Jew. But that's my hair.
That's your real hair.
Yeah. In Sons of Liberty, that's like a $10,000 wig that they.
But you have hair like that, and they gave you a wig.
Well, yeah, because now my hair's like this. So, yeah, that was in the 90s, Full House, and yeah, I used to have a lot more hair.
So what was it like kind of being part of a show like Full House? I mean, it was
amazing.
huge.
Amazing. First of all, there were such good people on that show. Bob is such a great guy. Was a good friend to me. Candace is an amazing human being. I still talk to Candace Cameron now, and she's, a mom, a good mom with kids and good values. And, I find her actually a very inspirational person. And Jodie Sweeten's turned her life around, and, I've hung out with her many times since she's really gotten herself back together. And it's amazing to see, what a great person she's turned into. The Olsen twins are probably the only ones I never had a relationship with. They were too young when we did the show, and I never really communicated with them. I knew the nanny pretty well. She was the one I would talk to. But and Coulier, I got to play hockey with in a celebrity game. He's a pretty good hockey player, and I grew up in Canada, of course, so I played varsity hockey all through college.
That's so cool.
And Stamos, actually, I did a production of Glengarry Glen Ross here in LA, which is one of the greatest experiences of my life, because Mammoth for us actors is like the greatest.
Yeah.
And Stamos came to the show, so.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I just grew up with Full House. I watched, it was like that show I watched every day when I came home from school with my sister, and so to know that you were part of that, and because I was like, wait, who is this? Oh my God, I remember him.
It's funny. I got a lot of fan mail, especially from people in places like Utah, who were like, "This is the only show my family lets me watch." And so I grew up with you. You know, I've heard that so many times. So, you know, we don't think about it when we're doing a show like that. It's like, oh, there were so many sitcoms back in those days. But this really was one of those really big shows.
Yeah.
And it still plays. That's the crazy thing. I have kids that are writing me fan mail who are, you know, 8, 9, 10 years old. I'm like, how are you watching this show?
How do you know that?
Yeah, but I guess Nickelodeon and all these other cable channels, they just keep running them.
I love that, though. I mean, it's like, because I kind of also grew up with the Brady Bunch, even though that was kind of a generation or so before me.
Right.
But, you know, I'm glad that those shows are continuing to play and people are continually introduced to these characters and these actors who were such a huge part of other people's childhoods and kind of the morals that people grew up with.
And even that cast alone, like, grew up as a family, you know? I mean, because Candace started when she was really young, as did Jody, and I think a lot of people grew up on that show in the cast as well as people watching it.
So going from Full House and then kind of continuing on, you've done a lot of pilots. You've done just about every genre, I feel like.
So true.
And you've done just about every type of character. Now, I know we talked a little bit about villains and stuff, but what is kind of your favorite genre and what is your favorite character to play?
Well, what was great was coming off of all these sitcoms in the 90s, so I did House, and then Warner Brothers had given me my own show to do for Fox called Reality Check. And if you can believe this, my co-stars were Giovan Ribisi, Tiffany Thiessen, and Hilary Swank. And it was just this crazy, oh, and Kaylee Coco.
Oh my gosh.
So she played my sister. So can you imagine this all-star cast? And they had another pilot that they wrote at the same time that they thought may go, but this one for sure. And that was a show called Friends. So another Emerson alumnus, Kevin Bright, was the producer on that. And yeah, it's like, it was crazy. Like, all this heat was happening with us. We tested really well, and Friends was testing well, and they thought both shows were going to go. And then Fox got the rights to football, and they were like, yeah, it's a high school show. We're going to take it off the schedule and put on a family show to keep that football audience. And that's, you know, that's part of the business that people don't understand, is it's not always the best show that ends up in the best time slot. It's really so many factors in the business that these executives are thinking about, and I don't blame them. You know, they're running a business. And so this network exec thought it's a better idea to have a family show. And this was a different demographic. Now, of course, everybody wants the younger demographics. But yeah, and just like that, you know, that Hilary ends up being free, and she ends up doing this amazing movie that she wins an Oscar for, and this is how things happen.
Yeah, it's so, for anybody who doesn't like understand this industry, doesn't work in this industry, it is crazy how quick, you know, you think you're like, oh, you know, I got cast for this huge pilot, like it's going, you know, with all those big names, and then whoosh, like that.
Oh yeah, and you know, the gift baskets start coming in from the network, and you know, your itinerary to go meet with all the advertisers and the shows, and then they change their minds.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm one of the lucky ones. I know guys who've been in my situation, and that's way back in the early 90s that happened, and they never recovered. I know a lot of guys. You know, one guy I just bumped into, funny enough, at the whiskey bar, and he's there at the bar having a drink. He's like, Dave, I'm like, oh my God, we did an after-school special together in 1992. And I'm like, what are you doing now? He's like, I'm in real estate. And it's like, you know, I don't blame you. Married and kids, and that's what happens to most people. You know, it's even the people who've worked. It's just hard to maintain this. And I'm really blessed that I've gotten to do so much work. 5 movies in this past year.
That's incredible.
You know, so the one you just talked about, the miniseries, that had really good ratings for the History Channel last week. And then Pioneer's Palace, which I'm really excited about. Just a fluke. I was in Romania working, and these Romanians are like, hey, would you like to do a part in our movie? It's a Romanian movie, but your part will be an American who speaks in English. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, yeah, I'm like, do you have a script? Like, well, we have a 7-page script. I'm like, oh, it's a short? No. I'm like, okay, so I can just kind of ad-lib, yeah, you do what you want, here's the setup. And so I just started cracking jokes and playing with it, and it got into the Sundance Film Festival. I mean, and this is like the mecca for artists, you know? I mean, in terms of critically acclaimed movies, there's nothing bigger than Sundance.
No.
And they gave us a really nice presentation. We sold out so quickly. People stood in a snowstorm to try and get whatever tickets they were going to release back. it was just an amazing experience. And
What's the movie about?
so it's basically a coming of age story of these kids in high school, right at the time when Romania is coming of age. In 1989, they overthrew the communist dictator, a guy named Ceausescu, who was a pretty nasty fellow, and then all of a sudden they had freedom. And didn't know what to do with this freedom. You know, imagine America during the Wild West, right? When people kind of came out to California for the gold rush. And you had all the dreamers that were looking for a better opportunity. And then you had those nasty people that kind of screwed over the dreamers.
Yes.
And that's what we have today in LA. Those are the two people who are left. And so my character was one of the nastier varieties who pretended to have millions and millions of dollars that he was going to invest and took advantage of these Romanian people. And it's kind of like a multi-plot movie, like a Robert Altman type, where you have different scenes that finally meet.
Like a Crash.
Yeah, like a Crash or any of those multi-plot movies, yeah.
That's so cool. That's awesome. And so, but you've done 5 films, you said. So
right,
what else?
So I have another movie. I have 2 movies coming out, both directed by a super, super nice, talented director named Michael Damian. Michael started on what's the name of the soap, like the biggest soap of all time?
Days of Our Lives.
It's still running.
One Life to Live.
The CBS one.
General Hospital.
CBS.
Oh, God.
Not Bold and the Beautiful, but the other one. Somebody help me.
I don't watch soaps.
God, I was on the show twice, too. Anyway.
Children?
No.
What? I feel like we've gone through them all.
Biggest soap.
Days of Our Lives.
Nope.
One Life to Live. Like I was like sand through an hourglass.
It's
These are that's the
William Bell's
Guiding
the
Light?
producer. William Bell's the producer, and it's the other show is Bold and the Beautiful, and I don't know why I'm having like a little on the name.
Somebody let us know.
All right, so we'll come back to it. So Michelle Stafford, who's an old girlfriend of mine, she plays the villainess on it, or certainly did for many years. Anyway, he was Danny whatever on that show, and he also released all these albums, and now he became a director, Michael Damian. So he did 2 movies while I was in Romania, and basically we shot one, and then he came back to do another. He's like, "You're still here?" I'm like, "Dude, I just shot 2 more movies since I last saw you." And he's like, "Great, I got a great part for you." So one is called High Strung, and it's a dance movie, very much like the Step Up movies, if you've seen those. So you know, it's basically like Fame meets Step Up. It's like a performing arts high school where these kids are competing and they're really amazing dancers. And you have like the classic ballet dancer, and you have like the hip hop street dancers. And you have the violinist, and it's a big soap opera between all of them, and a final competition. And Janine, Michael's wife, also very talented, was a solid gold dancer back in the day. So she was involved with the choreography and always wanted to make a dance movie, and she co-wrote that with Michael. And I did a romantic comedy with Jane Seymour called Love by Design. And Jane Seymour's actually in both movies. So I'm in both movies, Jane Seymour's in both movies, and both done by the Damians.
That's crazy.
Who I absolutely adore. They are the nicest people you could ever work for.
Now, do you dance? I mean, because obviously you do musical theater, so I'm sure.
Well, funny enough, right?
Yeah.
I get to Emerson College, right? Imagine me. I'm the hockey player. I'm on the hockey
I was gonna say you're
team.
like a jock, but like
happen
theater
to sing,
guy.
I happen to sing and act, but I'm also like the athlete. And like the first day I got there, I'm in hockey practice, and they go out. They had auditions for the big musical, and it was Chorus Line. So I was one of 2 freshmen who they cast, and I just remember going, "What am I going to do? I don't dance," you know. And so they put me in a room with a choreographer, and they were like, "You're going to work every day, 5 days a week until you know how to dance." And that's what I did, you know. And by the time the show went up, I danced.
So did he go through everything? He like tap, jazz, ballet?
We didn't really have a tap number in Chorus Line, mostly jazz with a little ballet.
Yeah.
So I had to learn ballet routine, I had to learn jazz routine. And then, of course, the next year, is a show called George M., about George M. Cohan, and that's a tap show. So just as I've gone through all this, I'm like, oh my God, all my hockey buddies are making fun of me. They're like, nice tights, Lipper. I had these yellow tights that I'm grunge-tang across the stage and in Chorus Line, right? They all had a good laugh on that. And now I'm doing a tap show. And I'm like, for God's sakes, you can't pick a show that's like a normal musical that has dance numbers, but it's not like the whole friggin' thing. And then I had to learn tap, and that was impossible for me. It took me like a month to get the time step down. I just
Really?
found it so hard. I found it the hardest of all the forms of dance.
I feel like with some people, tap just comes like that.
Yeah.
And with other people, they just hate it.
Yeah, I'm
because
like,
it's
how
so
do you get
difficult.
the foot to do that?
do-
You know,
to
it's
do
like,
the
just like, and then I think eventually they're like, look, listen, we're gonna give you shoes that have no taps on them, and you just do the movements.
That's like
Yeah.
the people that they're like, you're gonna lip sync everything, but you're such a good dancer, so we need you in the chorus. Like,
Yeah, and for me, I had a pretty good voice back in those days, so they wanted my voice for those 2 shows more than anything, and they were like, well, we're gonna have to fix your dancing. So.
so you've done so much. I mean, do you have like a dream role?
You know, the Texas Cadet Murders was one of my favorites. It was another true story about David Graham and Diane Zamora, who were seniors in high school, and he was on the track team, and there was a girl on the track team who was beautiful, and, you know, he was 18 and she was, 17 or 18, and they're on the bus together, and they start having a little fling, and they had an affair, for like a one-day affair.
Mm-hmm.
And the girlfriend basically said to him, I will stay with you, but you have to kill her. And this is an amazing story because I didn't play it like I was a sociopath or crazy or any of those things. I played it like, I can't believe I have to kill this girl, but I'll do anything not to lose the love of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I read about David is that his mom was almost the identical personality as this girlfriend, and almost physically identical. So for him, and she ran away from him when he was about 14 or 15. So for him, the idea of losing this woman was like losing his
A
mother
mom
again.
again.
And it was just, I just played the stakes like that would be death. So I had scenes where I was just completely conflicted and dying inside and just wanting to kill myself. And all that stuff was brought up in the movie. So I thought, like, for me, I think it's a good performance. Like, it's one that I'm happy with because I felt like I had all those layers. I got really good fan reception to that, who said things like that, like, I actually sympathized for you and you were this awful
Which is
killer.
hard, yeah. It's
Yeah.
when you can play this character that's completely evil, or to most people would be completely evil, but then have people sympathize and empathize for what he's going
And I
through.
think it's an important actors, which is we don't judge our characters, and it's really important not to say I'm the bad guy, not to say I'm a sociopath, I'm this or that, but to find the reasons why you do these things and make it normal. You know, make it like you're right to do this. And that's what we have to do, because otherwise we're just black and white caricatures that don't work.
It's funny you say. I was talking to a friend about Orange is the New Black, and I feel like so many of those actresses in that show do that, and you understand their characters so much more in prison and while they're there, even though some of them have done terrible things. That's incredible, though. I want to go watch that now.
It's out there. It's a good one.
And you've worked with so many amazing people too. Is there like a certain director or actor or somebody that you hope to work with?
Well, I'm really
someday?
excited. I have another movie coming out.
Oh my god.
I
You're
know.
like the luckiest guy ever. You are always working, it seems like.
I shot, you know, if you count the 3 movies as the miniseries, I shot about 8 movies in the last year and a half. So yeah, it's been crazy.
Incredible.
I have a movie coming out with Robert Patrick, who, if you remember from The Terminator, is one of those bad, you know, cool guys that I've always wanted to work with. And we did a throwback to the 80s horror movie called Lost After Dark. And this was a treat for me because, first of all, friend, his name's Ian Kestner, a very talented guy. He also co-wrote the script, and it's so much fun to do period like 80s. Like, I always love those 80s movies, like those Adam Sandler movies, like The Wedding Singer and all that. And so I have a big old Burt Reynolds mustache.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, a really tacky plaid sweater that I wear, and I got to play a dad, which is rare for me. I'm finally growing up, playing a dad. And
Is he the villain though, or is he a nice
no,
guy?
no,
Okay.
no, I'm a good guy in this. This one, I'm a really good guy, and I swear to God, I'm good. And it's a lot of fun, this movie, because it really kind of pokes fun at the 80s genre. You know, it's basically saying, we're going to have fun making fun of the 80s horror movie slasher flicks.
That's awesome.
You know, so it's like Chainsaw Massacre and all those kinds of things. It kind of brings that all up, and you get to laugh from beginning to end. And they screened it at Screamfest, which is the biggest horror film festival in the world, at the Chinese Theater here in Hollywood. And it got a huge reception. I mean, the audience was laughing from like the first frame to the end.
That's
Really,
That has
really,
to feel good as an actor.
it
to
felt
sit there
great.
watching
You know,
it.
it felt great, especially on my stuff. You know, to see them getting it and, you know, not taking it seriously. You know, as like a serious piece of dramatic art, but understanding that this is just a fun movie, and they got it right away. And it's tricky to do that with movies, because sometimes you're trying to do that and it doesn't work. You know, sometimes people are like, is this a serious movie or is this not a serious movie? So when it works, and this one worked. Certainly judging by that audience. So that's coming out probably in the next few months. So yeah, I got a lot of stuff. So Love by Design coming out, Lost After Dark coming out, High Strung coming out, and I am getting set to shoot a brand new movie. In
Romania?
March. No Romania, no Romania.
I feel like if you go to Romania, you won't come back for like 6 or 7 months.
I was there for a year. That's
oh my God.
Yeah, well, I went to do one movie. I got stuck there for a year doing 5. So yeah, no, now I'm staying home. I'm shooting with a very talented director named Jonathan Heap, who was nominated for an Oscar for a short film that he did. And Philip Morton, another very talented guy who wrote the script with us. And we're going to start shooting the end of March, and I've got the lead role. I'm an OCD, agoraphobic, shut-in, you know, who the whole family comes to see me for the reading of a will, and then all kinds of crazy things happen in the house. And you'll just have to see the movie to know the rest. But we should have that, you know, out by next year for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be going into festivals and stuff?
Well, hopefully we get a pickup rate to go straight to theaters before we have to
Awesome.
go to festivals.
That'd be great,
I mean,
yeah.
we have some distributors already lined up, so I think it'll come out.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to kind of like watch you now. Can we go back to Sons of Liberty, because I'm like a geek about this show.
Yes.
Again, you guys, he plays Amos in Sons of Liberty, and if you haven't seen it, History Channel, I feel like, it's just playing on repeat now on History Channel. You can see it.
Oh, is that what they're doing? They're just rerunning
I feel like, I mean, I see it's on at least every other day. I feel like, I don't know.
Got to make that 25 million
I'm not
back.
angry about it. I'm not angry about
Yeah.
it. But what was it like being a part of such a historical show?
Well, first of all, an undertaking of this size, I couldn't do it. It's a testament to Matt Gross and Peter Feldman, the 2 producers, who were putting out fires every day. I mean, imagine you've got crews of 500 people, right? You're dealing with 300 extras. You're dealing with massive rigs. I mean, cameras on tractors, on cranes, horses, buggies. And the director at times would go, why don't we move everything over there and we'll start you there and let's try it now. You know, and the producers are like, what? You know, there goes 3 hours, and 3 hours is an eternity when you're making a movie, especially in TV land. We don't have so much time. And for this to have 3.5 months of shooting time, that's a lot.
When did you
TV.
shoot this?
So we started prepping the very beginning of June. We had to do wardrobe tests, wig tests. I went through 3 wigs till they found one they were happy with. They had to build one from scratch for me. We all went through stuff like this. The wardrobe changed a couple of times. At one point, one of the producers who created the show, Stephen David, he wanted me in a fat suit. And I said, I will put on the 20 pounds. Yeah. I can do this. And I actually put on 15. I managed to put 15 pounds on.
It's always nice when you kind of get to gain weight for a role.
Trying to get a little bit of it off here. But so it was a huge, huge undertaking. And then all of a sudden it rains. And it's like, oh God, the only way to get to the mountain where we had the battle at Bunker Hill was flooded. Or, you know, the main road, because it had rained the night before. It was now a river where we were supposed to drive up. So they had to construct a back road from the other side of the hill. And I just remember I'm in the van with one of the other actors, and because they're shuttling us from the hotel, and it was about a 45-minute drive. And all of a sudden there's 50 cows in front of us. And the car stops, and we're like this. And it's like, how are we getting to the set? And you're like, and finally, like, I think the stuntman was in the car ahead of us. He gets out of the car and starts going, yeah, and trying to chew them. So, I mean, this is the kind of stuff we dealt with. And if you think about the undertaking of shooting 3 2-hour movies, 6 hours, and one thing goes wrong, and imagine what you have to deal with. So Matthew Gross and Peter Feldman, I have so much respect for those two producers and what they dealt with on a daily basis. And like I said, you know, when you want to move 300 extras to the other side of the hill, that doesn't take 5 minutes.
No, absolutely
You know,
not.
and the stuntman and the horses but they also had some very good technical people on this movie, which made us feel like we were doing something really special. We had an actual commander from the British forces, made sure our walk was right, and then the way we held the gun was right, and the way we loaded the muskets were right. So they really took
So you had some
precautions.
training. And...
Oh, yeah. Oh, I had 2 weeks of training with a horse and buggy before we even started shooting.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so... Have you ever been a part of a television show or TV or movie that was this historical and like set in kind of this era? No.
No.
Was that kind of... Are you a history fan? Was that fun for you?
It
to
was
kind
so
of...
much fun for me, you know, because I grew up with like wondering what was the Boston Tea Party like, and now I'm shooting this scene where I'm on this big yacht throwing the crates of tea into the water, and it was like feeling like a part of history, and that's pretty cool. So, you know, for us actors, we love the chance to put on wigs and makeup and get dirty and like shooting guns. I mean, I'm a guy. That's what we like to do, you know. We like to do battle scenes, you know, and for me to have lines like, "Dear God," you know, I was like, as the British are coming, or like, "Hand me that rifle. Let's go." You know, like this is the stuff you dream of. We don't get to do stuff like that on Full House. You know? It's a different animal.
I mean, it's like a dream of mine, like to do some type of historical TV show or movie. And like, I just watching Sons of Liberty, I was like, I feel like the way, I'm not giving away anything, but I feel like almost the way that they ended it was in a way that it could have alluded to, we could continue this series.
You got it.
So
I was completely intentional. So their idea was, let's leave that cliffhanger right there, right at the war. And then we'll do another 3. So another 6-hour miniseries where we pick up the War of Independence. And we really follow Ben Franklin and George Washington and, of course, John Adams on their way into the White House.
And I love, like, I feel like it was pretty historically accurate. The way, you know, these stories were told. I mean, as historically accurate as it can be for kind of a show.
I mean, people need to understand that when we make movies, you want to be historically accurate. You want to do your fact checking. But there has to be some license taken to make a story work. You need to have your villains. You need to have your heroes. You need to have your conflict. Otherwise, you're just watching like a documentary, you know? And so I think that we saw an unusual amount of true stories in the Oscar contenders this year. And we're seeing a lot of questioning on movies like Foxtrot, right? Like people are saying, was that an accurate portrayal of what really happened with the DuPont family? Did they embellish? People are coming out saying this wasn't true, that wasn't true. It's happening with all these movies. And people have to understand, or like where Selma and President Johnson, they're saying was, you know, wasn't such a villain. Well, they needed a villain.
Yeah.
So
Storytelling.
it's tough. It's tough to know where you draw the line between good storytelling and being accurate. And I think producers and directors prefer to err on the side of telling a good story that the audience is going to like. And that's why you always see based on a true story versus this is 100% accurate. It's the Bible. It's not one word was changed. Yeah.
But, you know, even the portrayals of kind of like what these guys were like, I mean, you know, they're not your standard traditional history book kind of portrayals of like these guys, but if you read detailed biographies about kind of the men who started our nation, I mean, it was a bunch of kind of ragtag gangsters that were like, I'm over this. And
bunch of smelly, beer guzzling, you know, gangsters.
Yeah.
And guys that weren't afraid to fight, and guys that weren't afraid to get their hands dirty, and were sick and tired of paying taxes to the British, and said, screw this, you know, we'll take back our land. And that's what they did. So we have this very clean-cut image of John Hancock, and especially John Hancock, since he was the rich one, and Sam Adams.
And Benjamin Franklin, I loved because that's kind of what he was like. If you really
Isn't that
read
great casting?
it's so good casting.
I mean, especially for us
Benjamin
Breaking
Franklin.
Bad fans. You know, Dean's awesome. And yeah, that was great casting. I mean, the whole cast was really strong. Yeah, you know, you didn't have one massive star like a Kevin Costner like they had in Hatfield and McCoy's, but you had 25 really good working actors.
It was a great
who've been around
ensemble.
for a long time. Yeah.
And I like it. I almost like it better when you don't really recognize, especially when you're doing kind of a historical-based television show or movie or whatever, because you want to be able to see that person,
Right.
like as that historical figure. You don't want to see it as Brad Pitt.
It was an
you know?
ensemble piece, so it wasn't like one of these other movies where it's centered on one character. It's like, in fact, it was one of the problems, especially a problem for my character, where I got lost a lot of the times because they had to focus on Sam Adams or Paul Revere, these iconic historical figures that, you know, the merchant Amos was kind of left off. He's talking, but we're on Sam Adams, or he's talking, or we're on Revere, because it gets confusing for the audience. How do you process all these characters? So
That's what I thought. I was like, oh, this is Amos Lincoln. And for I'm a history buff, so Amos Lincoln actually ended up marrying Paul Revere's daughters. He married both of them. He had like 14 kids, but he was 20 years old during the Boston Tea Party.
or the Boston Massacre.
Yeah, all of that. So yeah, I was like, oh my God, Amos, like this is this real guy. But who knows? Who knows what they might do if they bring it back?
This was actually a made-up character. This was, because in the first meetings, like we all took turns with the producers saying, okay, who's this character? Because about the top 10 leads were there for a few weeks before we started shooting, getting all the stuff I was telling you about, the horse training, the wigs, all that. And I'm like, okay, so who's Amos? And the producer goes, who co-wrote it? Stephen Davis says, I'm not sure. I just kind of made him up. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm the made-up guy. He's like, yeah, what do you bring something to it? You tell me.
That's fun, though, I feel like, for an actor.
It was. Yeah. I love being a part of the creative process, which is one of the joys of Pioneer's Palace, the movie that was at Sundance, is we got to create this movie. The director was just like, I got 7 pages. We're making a movie. Here's what I want to have happen in the scene. Go.
Yeah.
Which was easier for the Romanians who all communicate in Romanian. It was a little more difficult for me when they start talking Romanian. I'm like,
what are you saying?
What did he say? And I do
It's hard to improv when you don't speak the language.
And it worked. It was great because there was like a guy who was trying to translate for me in this scene, and I'm like, who's that guy? What's he saying? And he's like, oh no, he's saying he liked you very much. I'm like, it didn't sound like that. So, and I'm really listening, really watching, because I don't know what he's saying.
Yeah. That's awesome. Very authentic.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So with all this stuff coming up, I mean, where can we kind of follow you? Do you have like social media we can follow, Instagram, anything?
Absolutely. So at David Lipper for Instagram, all one word, at LipDude, which I'll probably change to David Lipper at some point. Because what's funny about Twitter is when Twitter first started, everyone was like, we need to come up with like a cool little handle.
Yeah.
It can't be your name. It's got to be like something else. I was like, oh, at LipDude. Now they're like, you need to put your name. Okay. So at LipDude for Twitter, at David Lipper for Instagram. There's a Facebook page, and of course my website, davidlipper.com.
Amazing.
There's always updates on there and videos and things.
So before we wrap all this up, I just have one more question for you. Because you have been such a successful working actor for so many years in this industry, and obviously we're in LA, there's so many actors out there that might watch this and stuff. What is your biggest kind of advice for somebody pursuing this?
Well, the first thing is you need a thick skin. I mean, it's hard because we're so sensitive as actors. That's what makes us good actors. We're honest, we're sensitive. And taking rejection is just so hard. And somehow you have to get yourself to a place of saying, I'm going to focus on the work, and everything that's out of my hands is out of my hands. And I can't fix why the network makes a decision. I can't fix why somebody changed his mind. That's just stuff I can't focus on. I can't go, woe is me. I have to get up there and just go to the next battle. And the most important thing for actors in the work is to be honest with the work. It's not about how you look. I mean, yes, we want to look good. Yes, let the wardrobe people deal with the wardrobe. Let the makeup people deal with the makeup. Too many actors are way too obsessed with that when they're on the day, when they're on the set. trying to let these people are all great at their jobs. Okay, wardrobe knows what they're doing, hair knows what they're doing. You focus on your work, which is what is my emotional need from the other person. And at the end of the day, the biggest trap an actor could fall into is thinking plot, thinking my goal is to get to the hotel so that we can then get to the next bus, then we can get here. Now, that's the director's job, is to worry about the plot. Your job is to worry about the emotional need from the other person. That has to be your focus, and you have to be courageous enough to go in there, really in there, and say, okay, not superficially, what do I need? What do I really need? Like, I don't want to admit it, but I really need you to love me. You know, I have to be able to go there. Or, you know, that person screwed me over really bad. I really need my power back from this person, and I'm willing to do anything to get it. And the great comedians especially, it's funny enough, why they make such good actors, why we get blown away sometimes where like Tom Hanks was a comedy guy, right? And then all of a sudden he became this great actor, is because they're willing to go to any lengths to win that emotional need. And that's if they have to stand on a table and thump their chest and scream and yell, they're willing to do that to win their emotional need. And that's your biggest job as an actor.
That's awesome. Awesome advice, you guys. If anything, kind of follow that advice. If you get anything out of it.
I got a few more things somewhere.
Yeah. Follow you on Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff, and maybe you'll...
I will follow you too.
Well, you guys can follow me at Keetin Marchi, because it is my name, and it was originally a fun little ditty, but nobody's named Keetin Marchi except me. So.
At Lip Dude.
I like it, and it's memorable. Thank you so much, David. I really, really appreciate you spending the time to talk with me. And gosh, you've had such an amazing career. So
I'm lucky.
I can't wait to keep following it.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, really.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.